Well, hello, this is Jeff. Trying out this LinkedIn Live thing. But tonight, we're going to be, along with that, editing the story The Mine, and then we're going to be editing a excerpt from this story, uh, Lith. But first we're starting with The Mine. We're going to go from there. Okie dokie. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. Okie dokie. So, Kilana awoke with a start. I feel like the only challenge is like a first sentence is a very critical thing, and a character waking up is one of the most common first sentences out there, or it's a very common trope. Um, and then I also wonder, awoke with a start is such a common phrasing. I wonder if there is any way to start this with something that's a little bit more tactile even, and that will give it some more. So if you still say, hey, I want to have this character wake up with an awakening moment, you can still say, through the haze of, crusty eyes, Kilana blinked awake to see, the propellers moving, whatever, like, if she's on a plane or something. That's a bad example, but I think this does. All that to say, oh, I'm on the wrong sign in. Gosh darn it. Oh, really? Oh, well, it's all good. Um, can we get a something different? Yeah, so I'd say, hey, if we can get something different, great. If you say, hey, we really have to have her waking up to make the story start, then I would go from that. So I'm trying to see if this LinkedIn video is working at all. Doesn't look like it is. I don't know. I'm looking. I don't see anywhere either. I'm not going to worry about it then. That's sad. I thought I had set that up. It connected. Post an activity, maybe? Oh well, I don't want to mess with it too much. I kind of want to just get reviewing. Oh, I'm bummed that it's not going through though. It looked like it was just plug and play, but I guess that's not the case. Oh well. That's so weird. They were talking a big game that LinkedIn Live was going to work, but they lied. Anyways, I'm going to give up on that. Oh wait, no, wait. There's a video. It's like video to share. Why doesn't it just let me do live? Can I do it? That's a document. Who's gonna post a document? How do I open up a live post? Oh well. Maybe I'll do it next time. Novelith, how's it going? Welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm debating whether I should just start re-recording and trying to just post one manually. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah, I'm just not gonna worry about it. Over it. Anyways, I was trying to get LinkedIn Live to work because it plugs into Restream, but it does not. It does not work out of the box, which means that I'm not going to do it. Anyways, she's immediately aware of a dampness, wetness in her hair. It took a moment to remember where she was. Again, this is a told. I wonder if we could get this in something that's a little bit more interior driven, obviously. So this could be like was she? House? You know, no. You know, like not at home. And that would involve having some sort of imagery here, right? So if you put some imagery here, you know, like Kelena blinked awake through crusty eyes to see, like, helicopter blades whirring overhead. Where was she? Not at home. She was aware of the dampness, the wetness of her hair. Her silk nightgown stuck gently to her skin with sweat, suggesting a repeat of the previous day's nightmare. Again, the register of language is really formal, suggesting a repeat. So whether or not this is your goal, this is pulling me out a little ways away from the character, because you're using a very distant third, which is a, like the sort of like a Tolkien-esque third, where there's some sort of redactor taking her thoughts, cleaning them up, putting them into proper language. So we're losing a little bit of like the rawness of thought that usually comes with a kind of like a blurry wake up that I would kind of expect. Obviously, this is kind of subverting my expectations, so that's okay. But you are having a little bit, a lot of distance from the character in the beginning, which is a bit of a downside in my point of view from the beginning. But obviously, that's more of a stylistic choice. This is a really high register of language. This suggests a this pulls us away from the character. Something that would be like a closer register of language, like would be like or something just like yesterday. Just like, just like that nightmare. For some reason, I'm loving ellipses today. I'm not going to do that, though. Yeah, so like, her silk gown stuck gently to her skin with sweat, suggesting a repeat of the previous day's nightmare. Okay, that's a like previous day versus yesterday. It's a very high register of language. Her silk nightgown stuck gently to her skin, just like yesterday, just like that nightmare. That is using free and direct discourse to give us a little bit of access to how she's phrasing it in her thoughts, even though we're not jumping into first person. So that might be, depending on where you want to position the reader in terms of the character. If you want us to be a little more distant early on, you're good to go. But if you want us to start kind of dropping into the scene a little bit more, something like that might be helpful. From her bed, in the thin light of morning, she could make out the rough contours of the mine, its bluish-gray opening quivering in the right-hand corner of the room. How does an opening quiver? Opening quivering. Is it like some sort of portal? I wonder if we can get some more definition there, because that's a little kind of like, makes one tilt their head a little bit. How does a portal or how does a mine entrance quiver? Is the rock shaking, or is this some sort of laser portal, magic portal with shimmering edges? Yeah, I think overall the beginning, oh no, I start with waking up too, checks my story. And that's the thing, it's a common trope because it's so natural for our daily story, our human daily story starts whenever we wake up. So it's very, very natural for the writer to start a story with an awakening as well. In this case, it seems appropriate. Like, like she's kind of coming into this nightmare world again. There's kind of this repeating nightmare. So having some sleep and waking imagery seems okay. But yeah, like if it can be a little bit easier, the better. Hey, how's it going, Hokaj? Way, great to see you. We're doing a edit of one of my friends is short stories. So should be pretty fun. Guess the question is, why might one use a distant style choice? It depends. Like, unlikable characters are usually where you'll see the narrator pull back. More fairy tale. It also depends on the genre. So stuff like fairy tales, and she may like because we're already kind of getting a magical mind portal, so this may be heading in that direction. Stuff like fairy tales usually have a very present narrator, where the narrator is kind of coming in and guiding the reader through the character story and saying, oh, and they'll kind of comment on what the character is doing and be like, oh, little Billy didn't realize that the fire was actually made of cheese, whatever. Um, so a lot of that depends on genre. It depends on, yeah, like it's mostly just like making sure there's a reason for it, right? Something was next to her, gently shaking her left leg. She looked up. It was Jax, standing above her, his black hair tangled in knots along his shoulders, his tan skin faintly mottled right along his cheeks as if he'd just come down from a windy day. I wonder that we don't necessarily need. So this is actually a good note that I needed to do in my writing. Um, Jax stood. Because we don't need she looked up. So like that's one of the things that I struggle with a lot in my writing is like, and that's probably why I'm noticing it a little bit more, is you don't necessarily need to have the character turn, see the thing, and then describe the thing. You can just describe the thing, and usually the reader will fill in the rest. Like, Jack stood standing above her. So we're kind of implying that if somebody is standing above her and we're in that character's point of view and we're describing the thing above them, that character has to be looking up to see it. So yeah, for this one, I would say this is actually a good thing for all you Twitch writers out there because I know this is a tricky thing that a lot of writers who are learning, even me, like I've been writing for a whole long time and I still struggle with this a whole lot. This is a big like knee-jerk reaction for me. So yeah, totally. That might be able to help lean out the beginning a little bit. And just have a stronger verb, right? It was. That's kind of a very passive base clause. Then you can actually have Jack stood above her. So that gives you a stronger verb. So like doing those little tweaks make the whole set of sentences better usually. Um, move the looked transitions. Usually can just describe the scene thing. I might speed up a little bit just so I don't get so caught in the details, but that's very hard for me sometimes. The technician had told her this might happen. Sometimes the dead came back as sophisticated simulations. Yeah, so this is also sci-fi. So we have a very like distant narrator means a very calculating character, someone who's formulating their thoughts before reporting them to us. So that could be implied as well. Go away. Oh, there. Ooh, whoa. That's confusing. Google Docs is being kind of weird tonight. All right, there we go. All right. The technician told us what might happen. Sometimes the dead come back. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna make sure to write that because I always forget to write positive things, or that, like even though I usually have positive things. This is cool. While the promotional material never mentioned it, everyone talked about the few lucky cases where a loved one had been resurrected. It was the only reason she'd ever considered installing this tomb in the corner of her room. Any chance, no matter how slim, to see her sons would be worth it. Jax, she cried. It was the only reason she had even considered installing a tomb in the corner of her room. Any chance, no matter how slim, to see your sons was worth it. Okay, I like that. In his arms, still so lean and muscular, teenage who hadn't fully grown into his adult body. She buried her head in his chest and looked at it, took in a scent, damp and mildewy, but still unmistakably her younger son. She turned her head, pushing the air up against his chest. Again, this is one of those things where like some of like the motion mechanics are probably getting, but they're also just like killing your verb, right? So whenever you have those motion mechanics, there's usually a softer verb in your base clause. All you Twitch writers, pay attention. Boss, you have this magic or essence in your writing which is totally different from other writers. Well, this isn't my writing. This is a friend of mine's writing. So that's awesome that you're saying that, because that must be very encouraging. So this is one of my classmates, actually. They asked me not to mention their name on stream, so I'm not going to. But one of my very, very talented classmates writing this awesome thing. So that's one of the great things, Lord Hokage, is a lot of us went to this really great grad school program for writing, and that definitely helped me a lot. Though this particular classmate was probably writing pretty well before then. She turned her head. Okay. Da-da-da. Jack, she cried, jumping out of bed. She pulled her. I think the pull him to her is okay. I think this is the problem here. Again, we're getting a transitive motion stealing this, base verb from the character. Jax had once done the same to her, constantly checking and affirming Kalina's presence and attention. He and Nick, just 2 years apart. Jax had once done the same to her. He and Nick, just 2 years apart, always fighting as children. Always fighting. I don't know. That might be you can take or leave that cut, or pick the book should read to them at bedtime. It's such a short time that one's. It was such a short time that one's children believed they could find every. Again, this is very, very pulled back register of language. And I'm beginning to disagree a little bit with that choice. And obviously, it's a style choice, so you can go in the complete opposite direction. Very pull back. I wonder. I wonder in such a emotional scene of a mother ending with her dead kids, whether we can't zoom in more with free and direct discourse. Yeah, I wonder if we can't get a little bit more zoomed in on this character's emotions, because we're kind of like jumping between this very pulled back diction of like one's children believe they could find everything they need in their parents, which feels not like the way the character who's like in this like just woke up from a dream moment would really describe things, versus this very, very like she's grabbing so lean, so muscular, like that's very much in the character's head, but then suddenly we're jumping out of the character's head here, into this very, very pulled back narrator. So um, I'm beginning to kind of lean towards maybe just going with having a more involved narrator. All right, believe they could find blah blah blah. They could find everything they needed in their parents. With Jax even more than Nick, that period felt short. Had felt short. I wonder if this is a better word choice. It seems like a soft word choice here, I'd say. Yeah, so I feel like there, like, anytime you kind of have a more generalized description, the changes you make in the edit, the short story you've written last Friday. Oh, well, thank you very much, to Lord. Well, remember, just like everything in this life, practice, practice, practice. Well, thank you very much for the kind words. But yeah, just you know, keep practicing. For all of us, and same for me. I still have to try my best. That's why I do edits, is so I can hopefully develop myself as a writer too. Because editing is really just is the best tool for some of my continued learning as a writer. Um, yeah. So again, whenever you have a soft word choice, there's always an opportunity, usually to have something that's more specific to the character, like that period. I don't know what that meant for Jax. Like, he was already like, too cool with his friends by the time he was 5. I don't know what that is, but that can give me a sense like, oh, Jax was like the social kid, like he always wanted to go out and party and hang out, or whatever that is. Like I just kind of want to get some of those details because I kind of get the sense that Jax is like kind of strong, muscular. Maybe that means he's a jock. I don't know. He had bolted from her arms. Yeah, so here we get the detail here. So he bolted from her arms as soon as he. Yeah, even more so than Nick. Than Nick. Jax, I would just do like this. I would go period here, and then Jax bolted from her arms as soon as he had learned to crawl. But this Jax, whoever and whatever he was, held her tightly now, even more needy of her than she was of him. And Nick, she asked. Jack shook his head slowly. His sadness tugged at her. With it came release. Now she had someone with whom to share her grief. Again, I wonder. This diction feels so pulled back. I wonder. My rewrite would be like, at least now should have someone to talk to, someone to cry with, someone to share. And then maybe do like an image. Like I'm trying to think of a good image. Like someone to crawl. That black. Oh, I can't spell. That's like a bit extreme. That's like a very hyperbolistic. This is kind of like this is a extreme example, but all that to say, I'd love to have a more visceral cut of what sharing grief means to her. Yeah, what does sharing grief mean to her? I don't know. Does that mean that you cry together? Does that mean that you go on walks? Does that mean that you just like read silently and stoically put up with grief? I don't know. I think I kind of want to get access to that. I feel like I fell in the room lightened. The room gradually lightening. They stayed like that. The room gradually lightening. The sun beginning to creep in the curtain and slice across the mine's entrance. She knew this was real. I think we can kind of get that. None of this is real, and yet I say it was all she had. Maybe like I want some more personality here. I feel like again, I want like this is a big statement. I want what's the main character's Kalina's way of saying this, since this is such a big statement. Like for example, it would be none of this was real, but damn it, she was just fine with fantasy. But damn it, for Jax, she was just fine with fantasy. I don't know, again, I don't know, but like I kind of want to have Kalina's voice come through because I'm not getting Kalina's voice. How does she talk? Like, what does she sound like? Is she like, hillbilly or like that's a bad example, but those types of anchors are really helpful in a fantasy type story because we're looking for anchors because the world has changed. The world is completely different in a fantasy story. So the reader is, at least if, for me in my reading, I'm looking for anchors that I can say, oh, so she's from the South. Okay, so this is close to modern day because people still have accents. Those types of anchors can help pin down the reality of the world a lot faster. All right, I'm gonna kind of try to read a little more expedited because I know you're probably gonna get bored just listening to yammer. The mine began next to Khaleesi's dresser. Rocker stood on the foot of her bed, then continuing to the window from the other side of the room. The great appeared smooth and stiff. I mean, like peaks. I like that image. I wonder from the other side of the room, the Blue Gray Rock maybe spiked inward, like peaks of a meringue. Again, a top. That's a really high register of language. I'm trying to gather the choice there, because it must be a conscious choice, because you're using a very high register of language a lot, but I'm not able to yet see the utility coming out of it yet. The inference was almost as wide. Not bored, we're learning. Good, good. Okay. The inference is almost as wide as the mind itself, about 4 feet high and 6 feet wide. At times it shook almost imperceptibly, like the tiniest of the earthquakes or a mountain's hiccup. A lot of adverbs here. I wonder if we... At times it trembled, comma, the tiniest of earthquakes, comma, a mountain's hiccup. I would, for my stylistic choices, I kind of want to feel like this is such an emotional story, and you might have a reason for pulling us so far back that the emotions almost feel like kind of down there and we're over here, which is maybe what your goal. Yeah, at times it trembled, the tiniest of earthquakes, a mountain's hiccup. The technician who installed the mine told her blips like this were normal. The mine could only be reconstructed to the degree of accuracy with which it was perceived. In places or moments where Jack's brain had ceased to observe things normally, the simulation itself grew blurred or blinked, stuttered like old reels of film. Silver memories, the technician had called them. I'm trying to pick up. Alright, I'm back. Sorry, my headset sometimes just decides to shut off at random times. So I'm trying to figure out how I think about how we're getting introduced to the world building. So like I like the world building here. I like the world building here. But it's still a little hazy. You know, maybe give me one concrete process step. Like, when they removed Jax's brain and, mined his memories, they said there'd be some, when the technician, he said some blips. I don't know. That's a bad example, but I'm kind of looking for like how this fact fits in to everything else. Because right now that fact feels like it stands alone. This idea of silver memories, that this has somehow to do with Jack's brain, but I just kind of need one little hint of connecting tie that, like, oh, this is tied to like Jack's autopsy, perhaps. Just like a hint, nothing big. You don't have to like give me a whole explanation. Be like, oh yeah, like this process began with them removing Jack's brain, taking out his memories so that his mom could have this experience. I don't really know, but yeah, whatever that is. There was this faint sound of strength and water. Splashing in for boys' feet as they entered the mine, all of it, as if transmitting from Kalina, stood alongside Jack's. One foot sunk softly into the mine's brown slit, the other foot firmly rooted in the concrete of her room. Bedroom floor. From her bed, she had noticed a thing. Now that she was close to the mine, her nose was full of a smell of sulfur, disagreeable and pungent. She only... Cut maybe? This feels a little... She had only encountered a few times in her life. I think that's okay. Not in love with that though. She knew from the robot driver who recovered Jack's body in the whirlwind mine. Yeah, okay, so then this is where we're getting. The whirlwind mine was a long tunnel that branched in multiple directions. Soon after entering, her sons would have waded single file through the mine's muck, the water getting deeper and deeper, the air increasingly toxic until finally they lost each other. Kalina and Jax passed through the entrance, and Kalina immediately noticed a change in the air, a tightening of sorts. Sharp smell of mildew, unfamiliar gas. She gasped as if choking, and Jax turned, looking worried. I'm fine, she's shaking. One thing is, like, if you're looking to have this as short as possible, and this may be a good tip for you folks on Twitch, you can cut dialogue tags like this. So you can do I'm fine, instead of comma, do a period, and then you can just say she shook her head to reset herself. And that, saves you some room, and it works. It does the exact same operation, but it just saves you a few words. And if you're trying to, like, squeeze this into like a flash fiction at some point or whatever, not a bad, it's never a bad idea to like save some room. So she couldn't die in a still line 9. Again, if she's reporting it, she knew she couldn't die in a single line. There was no problem with low oxygen level, no presence of methane. There was no problem at all. None of this even existed. She reminded herself, all a simulation, except for Jax. Jax was something different. She reached out to touch his knotted hair. Let's get my music on low. She reached out to touch his knotted hair. It felt rough and damp and dense as if it might never dry. Jax took her hand. His palm and fingers were calloused and covered by deep, unfamiliar lines, like someone who'd been navigating desperately along the sharp surface of a rock. They advanced a few paces, and Kalina was struck by how dark they quickly become. What would be cool is if she agrees to like switch places with Jack somehow. That'd be really cool. These are things I'm thinking about as I read the story. I kind of like to share that. Hope that's helpful. Yeah, I mean, it's not the dialogue tags aren't the end of the world. They're totally necessary sometimes, but if you just have, like if there's a time when you can cut one and save yourself a few words, why not? I like this world building. I'm wondering if Planet is going to swap. Kalina. They advanced a few places, and Kalina was struck by how dark it had become. Again, just cutting adverbs. She turned in her place to face the interest and already seemed so far away. So again, this is another great example of it turned, yeah, let's like this. The entrance already seemed so far away. Yeah, I mean that just cuts a lot of the, because like it just saves a step for the reader because they're imagining her turning around and they're imagining her seeing, and then if you just cut to the back and this is a close third person point of view, so whatever is getting described, it's kind of understood as the character. So why not save a few lines. They stepped further into the mine, 10 paces, maybe more. They'd surely gone beyond the 3 feet of depth that mine occupied in Kling's room, but then, of course, this was all simulation. Nothing was real. Fake, 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 she repeated herself. Oh, thank you for the follow. Yo, I don't know if I can pronounce that. Iota Libra, the free iota. Oita, Iota, Iota Libra. I don't know. I'm sorry, my pronunciation's pretty bad. But thank you for the follow. Welcome, welcome. Did you do any writing and editing and storytelling or poetry? Any of the above? It was possible for darkness itself to somehow narrow like a tunnel. Jack stopped and pressed clean his hand against an arch in the rock. This was the point, he said, where the mind branched. The water was up to their chest now, and Cleena felt chilled at the core. Felt in the real mine water. Huh. This is good. I really like this section. I wonder if we can get it earlier. There's a lot of setup. There's a lot of construction in the beginning. It's probably fine. I think this is like super, super helpful. It's a great section. Alright. This is where it happened. And Nick didn't have to ask why they'd gone inside or how they'd gotten so lost. Jack would have led the way, Nick the smarter, but we could have followed. It had always been like this. Alright, so this is great. So this is giving a sense of mystery. I really like this. Oh, I hope it pays off. Yeah, this kind of makes it a little bit more sinister. Like, okay, like, did these kids, was there some pushing involved, or who knows? Um, yeah, I like that. I think this is really strong. I think that's a really strong element. That mystery of like what could really have happened in the mind. Sometimes all the characters' personality, storyline, world building unfold in later chapters. Yeah, very true, very true. This is a short story though, so it's kind of gotta happen fast. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab some more water. How you doing? Your brain? Yeah. Poor Foxy lady is still working away on her thing. Hang in there, bubs. Will a Slim Jim make you feel better? No? Okay. Alright. Slowly ease, maybe massage. I'm turning the mind around, ignoring the barrier and warning signs. Again, she could feel maybe like twisted. Maybe. Again, it's like sort of show how she felt. Was it his movement? Was it the, shifting of the water? Sometimes I think I see him here. Well, it's not him. What'd you call it again? Where the image blinks, a silver memory. The simulation. Does Jax aware of the simulation? So it's interesting. So it's interesting that Jax is aware that he's in a simulation. I wonder a little how this fits. Was his consciousness preserved in the, dream, in the, extraction process? Is that the implication? Not super sure. Itanchi, hello, welcome. Welcome. Good to see ya. The next morning, as Kalina waited for Jax to enter the mine, she found herself in Nick's room studying the shirts that still hung in his closet. It wasn't the first time she'd done so. It wasn't the first time. She imagined each shirt filled out with his face and body. She got rid of Jack's clothes, not, of course, because his clothes had nothing to do with him. Jax wore whatever was lying around. He was too fast. Flying behind his legs and his arms tore fuel down their hallway as he sped past the closet. Since she'd come back, it might help make things more normal. Cries, how like an animal. Okay, like this. This is good. Good advancement. Standing kept forward, certain how the sounds were coming to the mind, even more certain. The closer she got, even more certain she got that they were coming from a human. They seemed like miles away, echoing out the walls. It's kind of this creepy. This is good. It's a creepy picture of this weird brother who's like hiding his. I will want a little bit more motivation. So like, if there is some sort of like Jack's involved with his brother's death in a more direct way, like actually causing it, I would really want to get a sense of the motivation because I don't really know Jax well enough. I want to like I would want to have a really vivid um uh you know love this creepy lying though if Jax is involved in the murder and his brother's death directly, um I'll want a bit more just like color on his character. You know, want to see not just his, fastness. I want to not just be told of his fastness by his mom, but maybe his ghost self can exhibit some too. Yeah, I feel like we get a little bit of like his fastness and intenseness reported from his mom, but we don't really. It doesn't connect with the ghost self as much. Hello. Yeah, I can play with the cat a little bit. You don't gotta worry, Buzz. She's being a brat. She really loves floss. She every time I floss, she'll be like getting after it. That's a good point. That's like the catnip, huh? How you doing, Bubs? You gonna be able to get to bed soon? Good. Let me give you a big hug. I'm gonna be right back. All right. The Foxy Lady's got an early wake up tomorrow, so much sadness. She's okay. Yeah, I always do. Yeah, before I go to bed, I feed her. I just like fatten her up. Full stomach for fat cats. What a lard. My cat is morbidly obese. Alright. Okay, I like this. I feel like I want some of the. I feel like I want this to come before the suspicion of, like, the really obvious, like, I'm hiding something from you. Um, Before, like, the, uh, you know, yeah, because, like, it's pretty, uh, I'm fine, thanks, Mom. Again, I kind of want to. Can we show this a little through the language? Maybe, use repetition or a list of words to, convey, you know, this, you know, convey the loop. Just like yesterday, the entrance, the sulfur, on the day before, the entrance, the sulfur, the unpassable arch, whatever. It's kind of a bad example, like, it's kind of late, so I'm not always going to be on my best game of revisions, but that means something to think about. Each time a fresh familiar discovery when the research Nick wasn't there. She heard, and you kind of do that. Yeah. Okay. Then she started to do anything when they reached a different outcome earlier. Each time a fresh. She didn't know. Again, again, I I feel like this is being told to me now rather than shown to me earlier. So it rings. So it doesn't hit the same. Yeah, like in order to feel like the volatile anger, I kind of want to see. I know it's a tough ask because it's a really short story, but um, and it's hard because you don't want, Jack to be the bad guy from the beginning. You kind of want to develop it, so I get that. Yeah, I don't know how I would solve it, to be honest. Uh, Trying to think, what would I do? I mean, honestly, I think oh, hello, cat. Yes, you can come up. Look at this lard. Look at this fat lard. This freaking meatball of a cat. Um, my cat's very obese. My plan is to write more than 2,000 chapters. I don't think I can handle this compression. So, any tips for writing a web series? My plan is to write more than 2,000 chapters. Well, first, that's a very tall order. Um, my my recommendation, I think, for writing a web series would be to make sure your first chapter has a very strong hook and it's really polished. I would practice writing short stories before you start writing your big masterpiece web series, is what I would say. I would just learn how to really make the page something that you're happy with. Um, but then yeah, go for it. A lot of folks writing web series now. It's great. Um, maybe even just I would just maybe put in subtle cues. Subtle cues like all right, come on, dude, you're getting charged. All right, there we go. Like when she mentions, Nick with, like kind of like googly eyes, maybe his fist, his fist tightens or something. I just want to see the rivalry because I've heard of the rivalry from the mom, but I haven't seen it from Jackson because since we have Jackson as a character, that's gonna be the best place to bring that stuff in. It was Nick who went further than me. For once, it was your stupid son to blame. It was the perfect one who screwed up. You could have. So it turns into like a nicer story here. Hmm. don't really get. I don't see Kay's reasoning for doubting this story so clearly. You know, his arms out. His arms out. Does that mean something to her? Doesn't for me. You know, so I know that there's that fact of him having his arms out. It doesn't have to be something material. I never was, always would be. No one ever saw me, no one ever will. Yet I'm the confidence of all to live and breathe in this terrestrial ball. What am I? When? I don't know, actually. That's a tough riddle. I don't remember it. Tomorrow? Doesn't have to be some material. Yep. Well, if you guys have already figured it out, great. Because I don't always remember the riddles that I put in there. All right. See, I don't get her reasoning for doubting him. What's his motivation to lie? He's already dead. He's just trying to help her. Like, does she not believe that he would help her or care about her? That's something I'm not getting. I feel like this ghost is gonna kill her as well, but in my narrative, she filled her way to the midpoint. Jack's never let go. She won. She looked up everything around her bride. She had a long chamber. She knew this because she could see it. Endlessly dark mind is not partially illuminated. It was a large flickering candle. Happened to be somewhere hunched over, hands moving rapidly. The light shifts. I feel like. Hmm. Hmm. Come back, Nick Young. Okay, her voice merged a crow craving sternly. They figured taller, more able, leg and arm, followed by the rest of his body. It was Jack's accord. Jax was searching for his brother. There's nothing left of him but this horrible fuzzy simulation. Again, this is a really pulled back. So again, this is a very critical moment. This is a very critical moment. And we're pulling back. Probably something further, another figure crawled on the wall. This was slower, less urgent. She started desperately because all could make no sense of what it was. Its head moves slowly, looking up and down. She felt herself. Alright, so I'm getting confused now a little bit. The situation was for her, not about her. She felt her felt herself sinking into the silt. The light up ahead was moving and narrowing. Everything was narrowing. She took it to Jax to apologize. She crawled to the right, and the light shifted before leaving the wrong motion. And so he got her. For deep before it became a challenge, she moved backwards, waiting for the ground to fall out from under her. Yeah, I like that she's getting trapped here. Yeah, I feel like I want a little bit more of her motivations, whether that's coming through interior thought or whatever that is. 'Cause she kind of like right now just seems to be firing off impulse, and sometimes they're like not necessarily impulses that like I would agree with. Like she's going into this really dangerous simulation, does not pause, to be like, wait, this is. I want to at least have her have a moment of like, this simulation's getting weird, like irrational, like so I just kind of want to have those vermicelitude moments where this character is starting to question, like, cause she's going into this like crazy death simulation, and Jack is being really sketchy, and there's all this kind of weird stuff happening, and she never does what I think a human would do, which is to be like, wait a second, yes, she can convince herself against that, but I want some of those vermicelitude moments. She needs some. Yeah, even if she convinces herself, like, and even if she ignores the hesitations, she's just kind of so YOLO, kind of just like operating. Doesn't feel organic. The choices don't necessarily feel like they're coming from this character just yet. The mom is Jax the real person? I'm wondering if this is supposed to make me wonder if she's a simulation. Um, Trying to figure out if this is to make me wonder whether she's, Jax's simulation or something. Like, yeah, yeah. That's why Jax is so loving, because the mom simulation is supposed to twist your brain. Maybe, maybe. All right, so I'm gonna write my overall notes. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off suggesting just go to editing. The great, the good. Love the characters. I think each was defined clearly, and had their flaws. Um, though I wanted to get more of their motivations. Wanted to get a little more on their motives. Let me think. I think the thing I really liked was I loved the mystery of the cave and the sketchy, you know, brother v brother, what really happened. That is, that is really like done well. Keep this. Um, Improve. The mother's, involvement in the cave doesn't fit 100% for me yet. And I'm not sure I have enough clues to place. Yeah. I'm not sure I could even guess what really happened, which is kind of a bummer because you have such a great mystery setup, but it just does not yet pay off to the place where like I feel really like, oh, like it's kind of a bummer because you have just want to know what happened. I mean, it's kind of like I feel like there's a little bit of like, you know, there is a little bit of like the not hand waving, but just like kind of like the big twist. But sometimes even like I almost the big twist gets a little too unclear. I almost like a small twist with that's really clear and understandable. It makes me feel like I'm like, oh, that's what this was, much more than a big twist that I can't really grasp because then it just kind of makes it like just kind of like, oh, I don't really know what that meant. Um, you know, I think we need a little more on the motives of the characters. The mom especially felt a bit, on a loop. probably goal, but it's such that her decisions seem to just happen for the sake of, the plot over, me knowing her well enough to believe that she, with her flaws and, inside, I mean, I think one of the reasons it feels like she's like a little bit funny is like, part of this is like the diction, part of this is the pulled back diction at points, part of this is when she makes a decision, we don't really see her asking, the questions a normal person would, or raising concerns. I think I liked the concept of this like creepy erection tech line is pretty badass. And I think, like the, memory extraction for silver memories is super cool. I mean, yeah, I love the death memory thing. I mean, like I said, I think you read one of the things, I did the whole thing on that because I just think it's so cool. So I love that you have like this creepy memory cave. It's just so badass. Um, I'm gonna also eat another Slim Jim. Um, I just want to know what happened. So this is gonna be my tip, and this is gonna go out to all you Twitch writers as well, because I've read a lot of your all stuff. And clarity is always a challenge, especially when you're trying to do twists and like turns and subverting the plot. And so what I would want for, this story, it's kind of what I wrote, which is like I would love try writing a draft where it is like super obvious what the twist is, everything. Just try writing like the Jeff is a moron draft because I'm dumb and I sometimes need to get handheld. So write a version of this where the twist is so crystal clear that you can't not get it. And then if you say, okay, I do want to hide it a little bit more, you can start hiding those clues a little bit. But I think the problem is, um, the ambiguity is working against you. I think a little bit, where like since you've never put enough clues, I think like because you never, I don't know, maybe you have, but it doesn't feel like you've written a draft where like it's really clear what the mystery solution is, like what really happened in the mind is not super clear. Um, that you probably just haven't you don't know what clues are necessary for the reader to get there on their own. So if you make it really obvious, then you can take out the unnecessary clues and just have like a few really good ones that will like turn the light bulb on for somebody. Because I just did not get the light bulb moment, particularly on this one. Because I was like, okay, like did Jax kill his brother? No, his brother went in first. But then what was Jax doing? Why was his arm stretched out? Was he trying to get his mom? Like, did his mom run in after him and she died? And Jax is the one that's like the coward that's like freaking out. I don't know. I didn't get enough clues to jump on any side of that. But that's what I was trying to figure out. I was like, okay, well, and maybe you want to leave it ambiguous, but even if you want to leave it ambiguous, have one draft with what you think actually happened, and then go back and hide it and make it ambiguous. That's totally fine. But I would just encourage you, try one draft with like, this is literally what went down in that cave, and then go back and make it mysterious. But I think it would just give like, it would give a little bit more concreteness, because everything feels so vague and fuzzy and confusing, and like, you know, she's doped up on gases and freaking out. It's kind of hard to like, yeah, and I think that's the problem with another challenge with the mom too, is she's always like doped up on gases and like, my son, and she runs over here and then she's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go further in, you know. So she's always so impulsive, and you're kind of like, well, girl, chill, like, let's figure out what's going on. You're like in this creepy simulation, like, let's ask some questions. So I think that would be one thing I would think about. It's locking down really precise clarity. Um, you know, write a draft without any ambiguity. Then let's see. Yeah. I mean, even the first time Jax tells her that there's nothing to see with this crying voice, but I don't even know what he's hiding. She just gets him a hug and goes to bed. Yeah. Um. Oh, yeah, I think time. Time was a bit of a troubling thing for me. We get this sense of her looping through this simulation ceaselessly, but we don't really. But I don't know if months, weeks, days have passed. I don't know why she, doesn't, ask more questions earlier. Yeah. Try to lock in a time frame. At least for you, then try to make it as short as possible. Since it just the longer time is, the muddier everything gets. And if a lot of time passes, some urgency is drained from your story as well. Well, great job. This was a great story. I actually really, really liked it. The mystery, man, the mystery really, really hooked me, especially in the middle. Really hooked me. I was actually very interested to see how the mystery turned out, and I was like a little like, oh, because it was a little vague. That was probably my biggest like, not like just like frustration as a reader, where I was like, I really wanted that mystery to pay off. I was really invested in the mystery, even if I wasn't as invested in the characters, which is okay. That's totally normal. I really invested in the mystery, and the fact that it kind of paid off a little ambiguously, and like so many things were missing. Like, what was Jack blocking with his back? What was he hiding with his back? I'll be right in here. On that note, what was Jack's hiding his back? You know, because like, I don't think I ever clicked like what was there. Because was it like that silver image of Nick, blipping around and like looking at something? Maybe, I don't know. Um, so yeah, I think I would. Yeah, clarity, clarity, clarity. You have such a great concept. The story for me is the mystery of what happened there. The loss, the mom's loss and her kind of dizziness, you know, I think it's critical and awesome, but it's really only from in my read a vehicle to that really great mystery of what happened with these two brothers in that mine. And so I think we want to develop the brothers a little bit more. Here, I'll just write this down my overall, for me, the big pull of this story was the awesome mystery. The mom's loss feels much in the forefront now, but why not just let it be a vehicle to get to the what happened with these two brothers in that mine mystery. You know, if want to invest more in developing that mystery, find, do the clarity, do the clarity pass, develop the brothers a little more rather than just giving us info, rather than just telling us info about them through mom's skewed impressions. And yeah, because that's the thing. Like whenever one of the mom character is telling us later novelist. I don't know why this thing is turning off like literally every 10 seconds, but it's starting to get annoying. Are you going to bet if this one's about one paragraph is 310 words? Lord Hokage, put it, throw it in what do you call it? In the, gonna put it up in Discord, but I want it with interaction. Well, send it to the edits thing because I'm trying to be a little bit more. I have another story to edit after this, and I want to get to it because I only have an hour before my 1 o'clock go to bed time. So I need to get to that. But put it in my send it to my email or put it on the Final Boss website, and I will try to get to it my next stream or the next time you're on, or my next edit stream that is. Developer, there's a little more than just telling us everyone through the skewed impressions, and make the mom a little more curious. Yeah, I think that would be my big note there. All right. Anyways, on to this one. I have to change to the right Google Hangouts. All right, Google Hangouts, Google Docs. All right. So I'm gonna double space this because my eyes will start bleeding if it's single spaced. I'm gonna go suggesting. All right. So this is called Lith, Lith. I'm gonna just write that on the top because I'm OCD and I like titles. I like things to be a certain way every time. Alright, in a way, the story began long before we traveled into space, harnessed electricity, and mastered fire. The story is played out many times in many places. Many different places. I hope you can see that now. I hope you can see that now that you know what I know. Even though the story was always different, the story behind the story is always the same. The tutor continued to speak. Arid continued to listen. As he listened, his thoughts trailed off into his own story. Where did we go? Okay. I like this intro. But then we kind of get immediately distracted. Um, I like this intro, you know, like the above intro, but then we immediately get distracted by this, you know, guy's own thoughts. Wonder if we can, you know, start the story. He was a former head of the Phoenix. Fortunate gave to serve the elite ranks in the forces of peace. It's always the same. So I want to at least have this payoff, you know. I want to have this, you know, always the same note payoff before we get the other guy's thoughts on himself. The decision to join had been his. Even at 12 years old, he knew he was giving up and what he would gain. Soon his nephew had turned his back on, leaving it to his younger brother. Now reflecting on the decision he made so long ago, Eric felt relief. I could only been 12 years old when the enforcer elite. The decision to join had been his. Even at 12, he knew that he was giving up what he would gain. Soon his nephew would take control of the fortune. Now reflecting his decision. Okay, there's a lot of backstory. And Eric continued. The trader finished break, and Eric continued. Was lost, and Eric remained lost in thought. Can we not? You know, this is a lot. Oh, backstory to give early on in your story before your hook has truly sunk. If I could spell. I wonder if we can develop, you know, this hook scene more before jumping. Backstory about someone we don't yet know enough to care about. That's the thing. So one of the challenges, I think, is when you're jumping into backstory like this, is that we don't yet know very much about this character. Do we like them? Do we hate them? I mean, all they're doing is zoning out. The only action they've done is zone out in a conversation. So I think one of the things you want to do is you want to build an emotional connection to a character before you build a factual connection to a character. So before you give me the backstory, I want to have a feeling about this character. And a feeling doesn't come from backstory. A feeling about this character comes from something they've done on the page. So that really means he needs to do something to the trader, or this just has to wait until he has made a choice, I think. We're getting all this character's, you know, facts before we even know whether we like them or not. Push to have an emotional, you know, give us an emotional connection to the character before you give us the factuals connection to the character. It's more like a riddle. I just want advice on how to write this type of sentence. Okay, I can take a quick look. Is it in Discord? I normally try to be, you know, respectful to the writers who submit their work, but I can take a quick speed look. Otherwise, I'll just type it here. All right. All the things. Okay. Initiate Felden rose from his bunk after a solid night's sleep. Okay, so this is getting into action. This is getting into scene. This is really good. I liked this. But again, look at this. 2 stories where someone is waking up. Again, it's such a deeply grained impulse in writing. Wake up moments are a super common trope. Unless this is critically, I'd consider a different starting point. You know, maybe in the middle of his day, you know. In less than a week, a full night's sleep will be the thing of the past. Only distant yet unnaturally sharp memory. In less than a week's time, his memory would always be unnaturally sharp. In the final days leading up to the graduation, Eric was number 16 of the original 100 6 years ago. Again, we're getting the facts. We're getting the facts. So this is very common in first drafts. This is very common in early drafts to be writing the character info and the world info before the drama starts, because the writer is figuring out what those things are. Totally okay to do, but just in the next draft, pivot to focus on the drama. All right. 2002 is the past me. 2002 is the past me. 2020 is the present me. 2080 is the future me. The present me in 2020 knows everything about the past me in 2000, but the past me in 20 doesn't know anything about the present me in 2020. The future me, but the present me in 2020 doesn't know anything about the future me in 2020. The past 2002, the present me 2020. The present 2020 me lives in memory in the future me in 2080. The past. So that seems to be like looping almost. It's getting kind of long. So yeah, it's a cool image, but it's very much, it feels like a loop. I like it. His last days, Eric would have access to his family's assets. Well, Eric knew it. I like this. As someone who's written something similar, you know, I always laugh. We've all been forever interested. There. For all Eric knew, it was the largest corporation type. In the week, Eric Felden would be just a name over from the past, some sort of vegetable piece of family that would evolve. So again, we're getting backstory, but we don't know. We're getting a lot of backstory. And again, I don't know if we need to refer to him. Do we need to refer by first and last name continually? You know, is the first last yeah, unless it's an intentional choice, I don't know if you need the first and last name mentioning that much. maintain profits by serving the state. The enforcers serve their families as well. I think you did a great job. That was the correct way of writing a loop. I haven't written too many loops, so I probably am not the best piece of advice, but it seemed like a correct. I definitely got a loop out of that phrase in my reading of it. So mission accomplished. Yeah. So this feels like stuff. Okay. Because he's 6, right? And he's 12, so he should be 18 now. Okay. He's been in here for 6 years already, right? It's the last 6 years, so he should be 18 now. Yeah, what he referred to when he was covering as a playmate? I thought I might confuse a lot of readers. Yeah. I mean, it sounds, it's a fun loop. I like it. You know, one thing to think about if you're writing a lot of web blogs is try to do some short stories on your web blog. There's a lot of it. Short stories are such a great way to practice craft. I feel like it's a just helps you get your feet wet. Eric started his bunk. I was an RA before. All right. All right. So I think the thing that's going on is we need to find where the scene starts. So right now, you're on chapter 2, or really really chapter 3. You're just starting chapter 3. All that's happened so far is in scene. I'm not talking about in summary. You're summarizing a ton. You're telling me all the backstory. You're telling me, but all the stuff that's happened on the page is a trader started telling a story, and then this guy went into his mind, and then this guy, when he was younger, woke up and got out of bed. That's all that's happened so far. That's the danger. That's the danger of getting into all the backstory early, is because you have to get to scene action. You have to find a way to work that backstory into scene. Um, so remember to prioritize as much as possible. All all that's happened in scene in the last 2 sections is, told a story and zoned out, and Eric zoned out, and in, is, like this. 1. All this backstory needs to be cut, or might need to just be for your reference as a writer. then you can, you know, sneak it and sneak it in during, you know, scenes with dialogue and action and conflicts. Yeah. The halls are empty this time. Okay, so Eric Bass Slippers protected his feet from the tile. Ever smelled could be called fresh air in the arboreal section, and it smelled wrong. Okay, I like that. Oh, I wanna take this out. Oops. Thought I cut out all the here. I'm gonna switch out real quick to this. Then I'm gonna trim out these. Oops. I thought I cut out. There's a few times where the writer has come in and edit. I'm trying not to. I don't think it showed up on screen yet. Oh, did I just do it? Oh, it's over there. Gosh darn it. Get out of there, Chrome. Oh well. It's too small to see there, so that's fine. Alright, section 2. Microsoft Word doc. There we go. Alright, we're back. Okay, so call in the hallway. What would I like to take off what she's wearing? Okay, so very much an 18-year-old boy. I guess the Playmate is like more like a reference to like Playboy, but is that there in this world? I don't know. Anyways, very much an 18-year-old boy. But I want to see conflicts. I want to see conflicts. I think that's what I'm getting at. So first, this is, yeah. Yeah, I think it just connects so closely to our world. Him using that word playmate connects so closely to our world's connotations that it might be a little confusing. It's a rule safe this week. Technically, it was self limits with the headmaster and came. Will that change much? So we're in so much of the interiority. We're in so much interiority. We're in. But the problem with delivering conflict and uncertainty through interior thought is that it doesn't seem quite as real to the reader. Good looks aside, the pastor could really fall into the great sort of presence, even when he had getting identified in First Davis. That's funny, lol. Lol. So we need to get to some sort of conflict. So like all these things, all like his relationship with Lena, this should all be expressed in scene, really. So you know, this relationship with Lena should not be told to us in thought. You know, show it. Maybe have a competition between them with, you know, flirty banter where they're showing off their skills but she still always can fight him, then, you know, maybe the headmaster notices them flirting and pulls, him aside, and he's all nervous. He's in trouble. But the HM says the above. That's what you're looking for. You need to get into scene. You need to get into, and I think one of the most helpful pieces of advice I can give is something I've shared a lot. So those who are watching on stream will kind of roll their eyes because I said this a few times to a lot of folks. But to go pick a modern book, a book written in the last 20 years, um, one that you like, ideally, one that whose style you want to imitate, and especially probably and pick the genre, right? Sci-fi, if that's what you like, and get a bunch of different color highlighters. And with all those highlighters, highlight a different part of speech for each one. So for a red highlighter, write, red highlighter could be dialogue. Uh, you know, green highlighter could be action, something that's happening, movement on the page. Blue light highlighter could be thought, what the characters are thinking, what's going on in their minds. Yellow could be facts, telling. Whether it's exposition or thought exposition. Red could be anything. I think I have a thing. I'm gonna write a blog post about it because it's something that I've seen happen to a lot of writers, and um, I'll share it around. But remember, because what's happening right now is an imbalance. There's a big imbalance in terms of um, so much space is being given to backstory, and so little space is being given to scene that, at least for modern fiction, like so these types of conventions work if you're writing in like the Victorian era where that's a very common thing, but for the modern reader that's a much less compelling prospect. I think modern readers are used to having a very strong action driven hook. They're used to getting a character's actions to kind of show them who they are before they get all the backstory. So and then when they do get the backstory, it's very compressed. It's like a sentence or two before some more action happens, and they get a little bit more backstory. So it's much more like almost stream of consciousness. It's just kind of like going through a day with things happening, worries happening, kind of like more of our modern day. Like we get to work. Oh gosh, there's a meeting with so and so. Oh man, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna do? Okay, then he's yelling at me. Oh no, I have to negotiate. Or whatever that thing is. I would really try to focus on dialing in on that. Setting in coalition's capital city, Tycho would never know. Capitol building was considered, you should call it Romanesque. Its entire perimeter is lined with white stone columns. I'm gonna need some more water. I'll be right back. Delicious. I really love the description of the city. Sounds like a paper photo. This? I'm eating a little sugar-free caramel. And it's delicious. I like the world. I love the world building setup. Oh wait, are we shifting POVs? Hmm. Yeah, we are. Interesting. Okay, so usually when we shift POVs, so we're in Lena's POV right now. So I see we shift into Lena's POV. If you're shifting POVs, try to mention the character's name early. You know, like, I'll put an example in. Yeah, so then, and then you can even give us a little bit of her personality, so she can be like, rich pigs. You'd think. We would call it Romanesque. Oh, so this is the narrator talking? Oh, well. This is the narrator's voice. The we coming in feels like an omniscient, you know, a separate voice of the narrator. If that's what you intend, interesting. I don't know if I'd recommend that. You kind of were you've been sticking in a close third person for this whole time. I don't know if I would shift. I don't think I could. I don't think I would recommend that. You've been sticking in a close third person this whole time. I don't recommend having a more voiced narrator like this. Gooble's have been lucky. Okay, so now Lena's on the bench. She was looking forward. So once we get that, we're in her point of view. Yeah, but would rather make the Terry Holmes with Nana. Lena loves to me. She was a member of a very small group of people. Mm. I like the idea. Sounds like a paper photo. Oh yeah, that's right. I was answering the riddle. Yeah, that's right. What's the difference between the third person and the narrator? Um, Point of view is tricky. Usually a omniscient third person has a much more dominant narrator. Unless you're Virginia Woolf, which she just does it a little differently. She kind of jumps heads in close third person, but does it very, very technically correct. Like she's very, very precise technically and gets away with it. Um, but yeah, most omniscient narrators are like Lord of the Rings, where there's a voice narrator, someone is telling the story and they're kind of telling the pieces and the characters' thoughts that they think are important. They have access to everything in the story world and they're kind of delivering it to the reader, leveraging different pieces at times. A close third person is the narrator really only has access to one character, only gives themselves access to one character and their thoughts at a time. Most books right now will have multiple point of view characters in close thirds. So one chapter will be, Bill's point of view, one chapter will be Jeff's point of view, one chapter will be Steve's point of view, one chapter will be Susie's point of view, and then you'll kind of like shift. But then the close third will usually either have the camera in the character's head, observing what they're observing and seeing what they're seeing, or a little bit above where a narrator can kind of comment a little bit. And then you have second person, which is the you voice. So like you went to the car and fought, that's very common in Choose Your Adventures. And then you have the first person, which is I did things. And then you have plural point of views, which I always recommend writers to try in short fiction because it's really hard to pull off in long fiction, which is we went. There's a really great story in the Final Boss library that uses a plural point of view. It's called A Year of Silence. So go to the Final Boss library in Discord, read The Year of Silence, and you will know what I mean by a plural point of view. And it's definitely, definitely educational, worth reading. Couldn't recommend it more. Um, Eric could see her sitting on the bench where he was to meet her. He had wanted to meet her far away from any enforcers just to be safe, but it was unlikely that the dolphin guards would recognize them, and she'd insist on seeing the dolphins. It had taken all of Eric's. It's getting late. Oof. I got a little bit more fight left in me though, so we're gonna keep chugging a little bit. Yeah, of course. It's good to know. One of the most important things I think a writer can learn is how to manage point of view. You can make a lot of mistakes as a writer, but point of view is one of those critical mistakes that will make your novel unreadable without it. You can have kind of a weak story or not perfect characters and maybe not the best language, but if your point of view, if you haven't figured out how to operate point of view, your stories will break every time. Every time. They will not function. They will be very hard to read. I'm not. That's not the case here. This has more of an issue in terms of how it's balancing what's on the page, I think. Um, but point of view, I think if the more you can read about that, the more you can study that, the more you can master it, uh, everything else will come into play. Or at least you won't have a critical break in your story if you've been thinking about point of view. It's sort of like it won't make everything else perfect, but it sure as heck will make sure you don't screw things up too badly. Eric could see her sitting on the bench where he was to meet her. He had wanted to meet her far away. We kind of have a repetition of meet her. Yeah, I just picked the one just to be safe. It was unlikely. She turned slightly, sensing our approach. Oh, come on, I want to hear some dialogue, please. Yeah! Hooray, finally. Just like this. Why don't, this is going to sound crazy, start your book here. This is the first scene we've had. Everything else has been backstory. Yep, Year of Silence. I was taking note. Yep. You're silence. That's right. Really, really great. Read it. Read it. It's really helpful for plural point of view. But it just shows you what you can do. So, I mean, yeah, having a basic understanding of point of view, having the foundation will make sure your stories don't kind of break at a foundational level. But if you have a more advanced understanding of point of view and you are more aware of some of the techniques that are available, like plural point of view, like how to make second person work. I think I have a David Foster Wallace story in there that is in second person. That's really well done. Um, it's like the high dive. It's probably you can get it online too. The high dive David Foster Wallace story. Those can give you a lot of really great tools. Sort of like learning a foreign language can help you learn your own language better. Just like learning some weird points of view that you can use. It'll probably even make your writing in a normal point of view better. Um, yeah, this is great dialogue, a bantery scene, and two of the main characters. Why not just start the book here and sneak in? Yeah, I think that's what's happening is you have like these kind of chunked out sections of like this is scene description, this is backstory, this is the character's thought, and then but we're not getting we need to have this is the most important thing, dialogue and action. Dialogue, and think of it like a screenplay almost. Only what goes on the screen can matter. Wow, dreaming close to the initiative of the initiative felt it. You stop your gawking mirror. I'm liable to go home, put on some sweats, and read a book today. Relax. You worry about the rules too much. Which is probably the reason you waited this long to ask me out on a date in the first place. I wouldn't have taken you up on the offer 2 years ago. But she was right, and she was right on both accounts. He did follow the rules too much. She was pretty sure. Yeah, so this is implied. So this is an implied. So now it's like easier to kind of go in and do edits because there's actually a scene, there's dynamics. This is an implied thought. Fully aware she'd struck in her. Document my shortcomings somewhere else. So here we are. We're jumping point of view. So this is actually going to be a little bit of an issue. Yeah, and we actually did it earlier too. So we're jumping point of views. This is going to be really problematic. Jumping POVs. We were in oh, what's her name? Lena's POV, and now we've shifted. It's really hard to pull off a true omniscient. Is that how I spell it? Man, if I could really spell, that'd be great. It says emoji. That's a suggestion. Omniscient emoji. ISCIENT. There we go. That's right. Through omniscient point of view. So if you are going to use a close third person, I'd recommend sticking with one person per chapter and staying only in what they can see or hear or observe. All right. And the nervous feeling initiate filled in got while in the vicinity of Lena, always Lena, never like Gilbert, added to POVs here too, and it drains some of the tension because we as the reader want to wonder along with Eric whether she likes him back, but when we shift POVs and find out, it drains suspense. If I could spell suspense. I know it's with an S, I know. Yeah, Years of Silence is a great book. You should definitely go to the Final Boss library in the Discord, pick that out. Couldn't recommend it more. All right. I'm running low on time. It's about to be 1 a.m., which is my night. My night time. Because I am old and feeble. But yeah. Oh, and I finally hit 200k views and 105 followers on my story yesterday. Congratulations! That's awesome. Well done. With my unbearable grammar's law. Well, then at least that teaches you a good lesson, which is always have an editor. And it doesn't have to be me. I can recommend you to a lot of great editors, but always have an editor. Always have an editor. That's one of my biggest encouragements. I think is even I have an editor. I am an editor, and I have an editor. You always have to have an editor because you just can't. It's impossible to look at your own work without your mind fills in the blanks. Like let's say you miss a word, your mind will put it in there because it's just creepy how it works. Like I'll pick out misspellings in other people's work that my mind just fills in when I read my own work. It's weird. It just because your brain knows what you were going for, and it just like makes you see what you want to see, and it's really bad. So you definitely everyone needs an editor, myself included, everybody included. His hair was sandy brown and cut short. Again, we need to cut to the talk. Yeah. I would really go from scene to scene. Um, I mean, so these characters are from different planets, right? So why? Ugh. There it goes. Gosh, I hate Comcast so much. Back. Should be back. Annoying. Anyways, curse you Comcast. I hate you. You're evil. And you're scum. But yeah, what I was trying to say is that these people are from different planets. People on this planet, in this country, have different accents. So why not give these characters some different accents and modes of speech? Might make us, one of the things they say in screenwriting, and novels are becoming so much like screenplays. So I think one of the first things we want to do is evaluate why we have these big old scenes, these big long exposition sections, when so much of modern fiction is doing the exact opposite. So I'd really lean towards that more modern fiction approach because that's the audience you're writing for now. But the other thing is it is becoming very screenplay like, and one of the things you should always do in screenplays is you cover up the characters' names and you see if you can still get a sense of who's talking by just how they speak. That's like one of the big challenges of dialogue in a screenplay. Is can I know who is who by just their voices? All right, got about one more page. I'm gonna do one more page, and I'm gonna hit the sack. I think. Who you are? Okay. Anyways, if you're trying anything, just kick their asses. You're gonna jab Exerpt a few more times. I like this banter. I like this banter. This banter is working really well. It just took us so long to get to it. I like this banter a lot, but we had to get through 5 chapters before we got to a point where your strong dialogue skills could come out. Honestly, this is the first, side little bit at the intro. This is the first moment of 2 characters talking. This scene, this scene. They they go through the city, they go through the zone. Cars and buses, water vapor. Make the scene interact with them. So they go, they go to this zone aspect of the city. Make the scene complicate their relationship. Maybe there are, salespeople interrupting their date, or, they have to dodge cars with their badass, enforcer moves, stuff like that. So we want to have so the way to get that scene description and that backstory and all that stuff in is to honestly make it interact with the story, make it interact with the scene, make it, because if it doesn't interact with the scene, why have it at all? Because it's not changing the outcome of the story at all. So the first thing I would do is I'm going to go ahead, oopsie, wrong button. I need to go like this. Oops. Overall. So I'm going to get my notes. I'm going to go get out of suggesting mode, floop. And then I'm going to go back to editing. I'm going to go overall. Good. Love the setup. And I like the Lena and Eric characters banter a lot. Really liked the world building you have. You've thought out so much, and that's awesome, because that can give you great ideas for plots and conflicts later. Alright, things to improve. Why is that all the way over there? Balancing. This story is not yet spends too much time out of scene in thought or exposition. You need to balance the facts of the world with, action and dialogue. There should not be a page without at least one line of dialogue. That at least two characters with one line of dialogue where they're, disagreeing or, picking on each other. That's kind of a rule. You gotta have that type of, there has to be something, some sort of action dialogue conflict. How to, I'd say distilling. Oh yeah, POV. Third person seems appropriate, but be sure you stick with it and all the rules. Lastly, I think trim. When we do have to get, exposition and scene description, how can we make it as efficient as possible so we can get back to the action? ASAP. Oh gosh, I cannot write tonight. All right, like us running this bad, yeah. No, I think there's a lot of scene description in Backdrop. There's so much scene description in Backdrop. Oops, that's the wrong story. So much scene description in Backdrop that we actually sometimes lose sight of the story because it's just so much. So I think a lot of this, is gonna be for the writer just his knowledge. Like probably he's gonna cut a lot of the stuff out of this story. But then that'll be great because he'll have all this information about the world that he can access. He'll just put it in like another document that you can save and just reference. So this is just like a reference material whenever you cut out scenes and expositions. But anyways, I'm going to head on to bed. I'm pooped, but I'm going to send these writers their awesome, or their feedback because they did awesome jobs. A great job to both the writers. These were really, really strong stories. I was really, really excited to read them, and I'm glad they agreed to let me stream them. That's always so fun. I love to be able to share some of the learnings with y'all, and I hope it was helpful and educational. And it's a lot of fun to read. They were both fantastic stories. I liked them both, and I would keep reading them both. So can't wait to see the next drafts from both of these writers. Good luck on future drafts, and I will see you all very soon.